Also, over here, if you go right along the bench here, this set of drawers right here, the top one is going to have all the sandpaper in it. You can look for a nice piece of scrap piece of sandpaper from the belt sanders. Right, you can use any one of those. And then the next drawer down would have some of these blocks of wood in here. If you can't find any blocks of wood, come over here and take a look at these two areas right here. That drawer, the second one down, and the top drawer. If you need other blocks of wood, don't forget we have a tray full of blocks of wood. They're in there for the tap and die. Okay, we're here now to finish up our screwdriver after we got done belt sanding it. And we shaped this tip, making it look like a very nice screwdriver tip. And I did the very tip of it, and you can see how thick it is, just a slight thickness to it. And I have this nice straight lines here on either side. But now I got these, from the surface grinder, I got all these lines that I need to take off. And I got that little indentation right there that I need to try to sand out. And I want to sand the whole screwdriver itself. I want to leave the threads alone. I don't want to damage them. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in a vise, and there's some more surface grinding lines over there. And I can take my fingernail, and I can kind of take my thumbnail, fingernail, and nail, and I can go right along there, and I can kind of fill, if there's any major indentation, I can fill that little nick right along there that I need to try to sand out. But take your thumbnail and just scrape it right along the top of that. You're going to need 2 blocks of wood. All right, that's what we're going to put in the vise to clamp that in there. And then we're going to have another block of wood and a piece of sandpaper, some leftover sandpaper from the belt sanders. And we're going to use our block of wood as an area. You can either turn the block of wood that way, all right, or you can lay it flat. All right, so I can either lay it in there flat like this, or I can stand it up. But I want to somehow have a flat surface as a backup block. Okay, so let's go over to the bench vise, and we will start sanding this down. All right, here we are at the bench vise, and we have our screwdriver, 2 blocks of wood, all right, 1 big sanding block, and some sandpaper. All right. Now we want to put this in here so that we can work on it, and so we want to have this side up. So we want to get 2 pieces of wood, open up our vise, put the other block in there, give yourself a little bit of room, all right, hold it all together, and clamp it right in the middle. So you want to have it so it doesn't move around. And something like that. Okay, so we want to have it nice and flat. Again, if you damage the wood, you damage the wood. Take our block of wood and we wrap it around our sandpaper, wrap it right around our block of wood, and we're going to start sanding. Let's look at it from another angle. And you can see that you need the 2 blocks of wood, a bench vise, some sandpaper, and a sanding block. You open up the bench vise, and you hold the 2 blocks of wood with your screwdriver project in between, and you want to eye it up straight and get it nice and flat. And you work your way in and make sure you get it all nice and straight. Watch the very end, it will be sharp. So you wrap the sandpaper around the sanding block, and you start to sand, keeping it nice and flat. Okay, here we are. Again, a block of wood, sandpaper. I make myself a nice sanding block, nice flat surface, and I start sanding. I go different directions, keeping it nice and flat. Okay. Okay, here we are. Again, a block of wood, sandpaper. I make myself a nice sanding block, nice flat surface, and I start sanding. I go different directions, keeping it nice and flat. Okay. Okay, I sand it back and forth. Keep sanding it. Okay, and I take a look at it. I take my nail and I can scrape along the top. If it feels very nice, if it feels very smooth, then I keep working on it. I get rid of all those lines in there. Let's take a closer look now. Let's move the camera in close. And there's some, you can still see some surface grinding lines that we want to sand out. So we can look at this, film with our fingernail. All right, so I'm just sanding it. Putting some elbow grease to it. Back and forth. Diagonal. This way. Straight on. I just want to get rid of all those. You can see those little sand marks right along there from that surface grinder. And take your thumb and drag your thumb along there and keep working it down. Rotate the paper around. Try the paper in this direction. Again, I'm pushing down with the block. I want this nice and flat. I want to do both sides. I want to get rid of all those lines. Now, I don't want to go round. I want to just keep this nice and flat. Go right along that surface. Okay? And right there where I had that little bit of an indentation there, a little bit of a nick. All right, I'm trying to sand that out. It takes some elbow grease. You can see I have a big gouge right there, so I need to get that off. So I'm going to come at a different angle.
Some elbow grease to it, back and forth, diagonal, this way, straight on. I just want to get rid of all those. You can see those little sand marks right along there from that surface grinder. And take your thumb and drag your thumb along there and keep working it down. Rotate the paper around. Try the paper in this direction. Yeah, I'm pushing down with the block. I want this nice and flat. All right, I want to do both sides. I want to get rid of all those lines. I don't want to go round. I want to just keep this nice and flat. Go right along that surface. Okay? So right there where I had that little bit of an indentation there, a little bit of a nick. All right, I'm trying to sand that out. It takes some elbow grease. You can see I have a big gouge right there, so I need to get that off. So I'm going to come at a different angle. I'm going to drag my sandpaper perpendicular to it. Okay?
Okay, so we're still trying to get this down. I want to get that nice and flat. So I got to work at it. And again, I'm trying to keep it flat. And I got to use some elbow grease here. I got to push down pretty hard. I want to get rid of all those little surface grinder. So you can see I have just about, and if I take my thumb and right on the tip of my thumb and I drag it along the surface, I will feel those little imperfections. All right, so I still got a little bit more to do. I could go over to the edge here because I got to try to get that little part out. Okay, now it does help to go at a different angle, so I'm going to try going at a different angle. I'm going to go this way. Drag the sandpaper across, kind of at an angle on that surface. Now look, it almost got all those. We want to get all those out. All right, so if we take the block of wood and I go like this and I go back and forth, all right, I go this way now. This looks like the sandpaper is a little bit worn, so I adjust the sandpaper over and I go like that. And you can see now, if we just keep moving and sanding, it's going to take some time, some elbow grease. You can check with your fingernail. You can see how, as I move this thing quickly, my sanding, you can almost see the material taking off the screwdriver and getting rid of those surface grinding marks. Again, take it and go back and forth, different angles, keeping it flat against the material. All the way down. Just watch the very edge. It is going to be sharp. I got a little line right there at the end, so I got to work on that some more. It does take some time, so keep at it. And again, as I continue to go different angles and sanding it, keeping it nice and flat, you can see some of those marks that I was working on before are almost gone. The total time on this is about one class period, maybe 2 class periods. Again, trying to sand on, keeping every line nice and straight, keeping my block of wood, new sandpaper, and I can just continue to sand all the areas as I go and changing the angle. That is the key. Just keep coming in a different way so the sandpaper stays clean. And now we're looking pretty good. That's really looking good. And I think I'm going to switch up to the next step here shortly, and that is switching to a softer sandpaper. I'm still on that sanding block, so we will continue to watch this, and you can just tell that it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes your finger starts hurting because you're pushing down so hard, but just hang in there. Again, continue to do all the hard work. It'll pay off later. So now let's switch up to a different sandpaper. Some of the sandpaper that comes off the knife belt sander has a cloth backing. It's a little bit softer than the other sandpaper that comes off the other belt sander. So you can kind of wrap it around the screwdriver and really sand down all those areas that are kind of hard to get to. And you can really start shaping that look and make it look really nice. And then we're going to flip it over. Right, we're going to do the other side, and while it's sticking out there, we're going to still use our soft sandpaper with a cloth backing, and we're going to get along the shaft part of it and try to get out all those little imperfections in there that have been put in there from either we put it in a vise or we hit it with a hammer. We want to try to sand all that down. And you got to be careful with that edge. You don't want to rum your hand into that edge. It will cut you. I think I get nicked here coming up here in a video. But right there, you can see little black areas. I'm going to rotate some more, and I want to take a look at, well, let's just take a look. You can see here, some of that is going to come out, and there's my backside. I haven't even started that yet. So, again, a lot of work, but this is the time to do it. The material is soft. We will harden it later. And we want it nice and straight before we harden it. We flipped it over, and now we want to sand on the other side. And sometimes the sandpaper gets worn out. It gets kind of clogged, and once it gets worn out, we can always try another piece. So we grab another piece here, and we do the same thing. We make a wrap it around a block of wood, and we start working that down. You can see the marks. You can see some of the surface grinding marks in there that we want to sand out. So again, I start sanding, I start going forwards, and then I go at an angle, and then I go back and forth, I go left and right, I take it and I go out to the edge, I flip this over, and elbow grease, a little bit of elbow, it needs some strength. Yep. Get that down there. Again, I want to take my thumb. I can feel a little indentation there, a little bit along there. I want to keep working this down. Keep going at an angle, rotate around, position, walk right around the piece. Keep changing my angle. That's going to get it down the fastest. I don't want to go rolling. I don't want to go back and forth. I want to keep it nice and flat with a block of wood, just like I got here set up here. I got the bench vise, 2 blocks of wood, a sanding block, some old sandpaper, and I want to try to get the nice areas. If I get a little bit clogged up from the metal bowings, I just switch up. I want to keep it nice and flat here. And I want to keep working my way right around. Okay, and if it sounds like, yeah, I just got to be careful of the sharp edge. I don't want to get to where it's too sharp. Okay, so I take a look at my block. My block's fine. It gives me enough on there, and I'm pushing my finger down so I can push down against the material and try to do as much work as I possibly can without overexerting myself. I want to get the maximum sanding power, and that sanding power comes from me pushing down, rotating around, changing different angles, and taking a look, and then maybe switching up with some sandpaper. If this sandpaper here is kind of worn out, and then I come over here and I grab another piece. All right, this has a worn spot in the middle, but maybe I can still get a lot of it there. So again, be careful of this edge. I don't want to slip off and hit myself, so you got to stay balanced. Put one hand up on the bench if you have to, and try to sand nice and straight. You can see some filings coming off here, a little black dust. Oop, right there, look at that. I almost got my little knuckle there. Not paying attention. Strength and elbow grease means that you're doing hard work, you're going back and forth, you're taking the time to spend some time on this. You can see right there where I have that little spot right there, but that's looking really sharp. I don't like the roundness. We'll go over to the belt sander and square that up before we go to the next step. It's a big step, so it takes some time. All right, get the next sandpaper, the little flexible backing sandpaper, and start doing the shaft part and going back and forth, rotate around, trying to get that smooth out as nice and neat as possible. Again, it's your work. It's what you take pride in. You're conscientious of your work ethics. Keep going. Flip this over. Flip it over this side. And we'll take it, sand this side down. Takes a lot, takes some time. So next step, it sets it, and then you can't do much with it after that. You can sand it if you want it to grind it. You can grind it, but we want to have it so that take a look. Okay, I got just that little spot right there, but this side here looks really good. I'm going to take and go over to the grinder and take a little bit off the end here and make sure that's nice and neat. I'll try to hit this one more time over here and see what I can do, but you can see all my other spots are pretty decent. This looks really good on this side here. So again, you can tell whenever you have a little indentation, you can see it right there. There's a little nick right there. It tells you that it's your design, you made it. And then on this back side, we should sand this down just a little bit. We can sand all that down also. So I'm gonna stop right there. Okay, so again, take a shop rag and wipe it down. And we want to head over to the bench grinder and grind that tip back on. You can see I've sanded out the tip. So we want to hit that again. Again, I'm going to spend a little more time on this here before I go to heat treat. Here we are at the bench, or the belt sander, disc belt. We got a disc sander. I'm just going to take this here and go walk it gently into there, make that tip, flip it over to the other side. Again, I don't want to have any angles. I want it nice and straight. All right, I want it nice and straight. I'm going to be looking down at it. All right, so there it is. There's my tip. I added it back onto there. Nice. Has a little thickness to it. All right. And back to being fairly straight. I don't know if I'm going to hit those two sides or not. I'm going to do it one more time. There it is. There's made my nice tip on there. And there's my sanding job. Looks pretty good. There's a little burr up here, so I need to take some sandpaper and sand that down. All right, let's shut this off. Don't ever leave a machine running. Okay?